We all love Excel. It's so powerful until it's not, and then you hit Excel overload. But don't worry, NiFi can help. How can Apache NiFi help? So imagine you have multiple Excel files that are edited by multiple users in the same time that even they don't know who's editing what. What if we can have Apache NiFi to read the data from Excel every time a change happens and then have that data exposed to a database in the backend such as MySQL? Wouldn't that be interesting and powerful in the same time? In this tutorial, we're going to see how we can automate Excel spreadsheet data being extracted and imported into a MySQL database. Before we start building, download the code from the repo. So there you'll have all the required template and information. We have the template that we're going to use in this example, parameter context that we're going to use. We also have the SQL DDL where that we're going to use to create the tables, and we have the Excel data. First thing you want to do, you want to drag on a canvas process group. In my case, I already have this one, and jump into it. Next, we're going to go and create the parameter context before we start. What I want you to do, open a terminal line, navigate to where you have cloned the repo. I want to open your NiFi Toolkit client. And then you're going to paste in the command that you have in the repo. This will create us parameter context with all the information required for the database connection. And then we have the Excel tracker information, which I will go over it. So let's go over the parameter context and see what they have in it. If you guys go to the repo and you will open the parameter context, let's go for the MySQL configuration. If you haven't seen my last tutorial where we demonstrated how we connect to a database using NiFi, make sure you follow the link in the description and the link that it's shown now on the screen. Here we have connectivity information to our database. The Excel track, we have another parameter context where we're going to give you the source directory, where our Excel files are, and the list of files that are to be extracted from that directory. You might have thousands of files, but you only want to extract data from one or two. And we also gonna inherit this MySQL parameter context. So the main parameter context of our project is gonna be Excel tracker config. But this Excel tracker config will inherit MySQL. So let me show you how that looks, since we already imported it and the definition of inheritance is there. And let's go to parameter context. If I'll go to Excel tracker config, we see we have more than 3 records. The reason that is, if I go to inheritance, you can see that he inherited the local MySQL parameter. Let's import our first template. So our first template, it's a simple Excel extract. It's in your templates. So you're gonna have this one, simple Excel extract. So let's import it, drag the template icon on this, and let's go to simple Excel extract. Once we've imported the template on a canvas, next thing we want to do, we want to make sure that we associate with the right parameter context. We're going to associate with the Excel tracker config. Great. So now we can see that we don't have any invalid components. So if we go and navigate in the list file, let's go over the options. Remember, we set up that input directory into our parameter context. So this is our source directory parameter and its definition. So if you go scooch to the right and we show this, we see we have a reference to the source directory. We can even navigate to the particular. This is representative of my location where I have it. So for you, it will be different. Next item, we have the tracking timestamp. So the listing strategy is for us is gonna be tracking timestamp. What that means, every time a file is updated or saved, the timestamp of that file changes. So this is gonna give NiFi a flag to say, hey, we got new data, so it's time for you to fetch again. But we're gonna get to that point and we're gonna talk about the state of the list file processor. We don't want him to recurse the subdirectory, so we keep it as false. And the file filter. So remember the file filter, again, it's a parameter context property which is a regex by default that I had it, this pretty much tells me bring me all. But if you comma separated list of files, I'll give you an example. Let's say we don't want that. I'll say I want file 1 and file 2. This will only track these two files, but I'm not going to do that. For now, we're just going to leave everything that is in that folder, and the rest is going to stay as it is. After that, we're going to proceed to fetch file. So after the files are listed, we're going to go to fetch file. There is no change here. We're just going to leave it as it is. The only thing that you have to be mindful is the completion strategy. We want to keep it as it is, none. You don't want to move the file or you want to delete the file in this case, unless you really need that. So let's cancel here. And the next step, it's the main piece of resistance, let's say. Convert Excel to CSV processor. Basically, this one in this example receives no value for sheets to extract. When no value is provided, it will extract all the sheets present. Number of rows to skip. We're gonna tell him to skip the first row or not. We want to see also the header, so let's keep it like this. Columns to skip. So we don't have to necessarily extract the entirety of the Excel. If you want to adjust the list of columns, you can provide it. But for this reason, for the purpose of this demo, we're not going to do that. We want to format cell values, no. And the CSV format here, this is really interesting. It offers us a drop down with multiple types of CSV. It can be a custom format that if you click this, then you get offer multiple options. It can be RFC. Again, it will have a default format. Excel, pretty simple default. You can choose to be tab delimited, which implies what it is. MySQL format, Informix unload, escape disabled. So for now, we're just going to use MySQL, Microsoft Excel, and we're going to include the header line. So let's run it and see what we get back. We're just going to run it once, the first processor. Right, so we see we have two files that he listed it. And if we look into our folder location here, it's indeed catalog and users. And if we look at them, yes, users and catalog. Next step, we're going to fetch. So we're going to run this once again and actually run it twice because we have to. So now we have the files in the queue. But at this moment, they're in this raw state, or let's say Excel state. Doesn't really make sense, you know, when you look at it. So that's where the Excel to CSV processor comes in place. So let's run this one and look at the content. It's strange, right? We had two files in and then we had three flow files. The reason that is because the catalog file has two sheets in it. It has the sheet for cars and the colors. So if you're going to open this catalog Excel, we can see that we have two sheets here, cars and colors. So if you look at the naming convention that he comes up, the file name that he generates, it's the file Excel file name concatenated with cars with an underscore. So let's look at the data. Let's see how it looks. And we can see that in our case, the first one that is users, we have a name and age and the outcome. This is what we have in the user files. We have name, age, and now if we go to the other flow file, and let's see the data. In this case, we have the color sheet. And if we open this one, we can see that we have red, green, and blue. And what happens if we're going to try to run this again? Keep in mind, we have three here. Let's run this one again. We can see that nothing happens. So it ran 2 times, no file changes. The reason is that the files did not change. So if we go into this processor, click right, and we look at this view state, it pretty much keeps track of what changed based on the process timestamp. So he looks at he lists the file in that location, and then he applies this filter on everything that is above. He will pick them up. If I were to go and make a change to this file and say, and let's just run it once. All right, so we can see now that we have more files added to the flow file, basically. These are the sheets that came following our changes. The one issue here that we have is that though we change data only in one sheet, you remember we only change data in sheet colors, he will still extract both of the sheets contained in that file because the timestamp tracks the file. Right, so this one is the end of our introductory chapter into how we can consume Excel in NiFi.